The station known as Helios Drift floated at the edge of mapped space, where trade routes thinned and trust between species grew fragile. It was not a place built for comfort. It was built for watching, learning, and making sure old wars did not start again. Humans had arrived here only a few years ago, and many species still did not know what to think of them. Among the humans stationed there was Evan Hale, a cultural liaison. He was not a soldier or a diplomat with medals. He was chosen because he listened more than he spoke, in a galaxy full of loud voices and sharp threats that made him unusual. Every morning, Evan followed the same routine. He walked the curved corridors, greeted station staff with small nods, and drank overly bitter station coffee while reviewing reports. Most of the aliens found human habits strange but harmless. Humans smiled often. They joked even during stress. They used touch in ways other species avoided. One alien noticed these things more than most. Her name translated roughly into Lyra, though her real name carried tones humans could not hear. She belonged to a species known for emotional restraint. Her people believed feelings were dangerous. Attachment led to weakness. Weakness led to extinction. That belief had kept them alive for thousands of years, but it had also left them isolated. Lyra worked in xenolinguistics. Her role was to observe human behavior and record anything that might cause cultural risk. At first, she watched Evan from a distance. Humans, she believed, were unpredictable. Their faces showed emotions openly. Their eyes lingered. Their voices changed tone without warning. But Evan never pressured her. He greeted her politely, asked permission before sitting nearby, and accepted silence without discomfort. That alone confused her. Over weeks, proximity became routine. They shared workspaces, long observation shifts, and quiet meals in the station's neutral zone. Evan spoke about Earth in simple terms: oceans, storms. Music played too loudly. Lyra listened without comment, recording every word. She had never been the subject of casual conversation before. One cycle, the station lost partial power. Lights dimmed, and artificial gravity flickered. Protocol required staff to gather in safe zones. Evan and Lyra found themselves waiting together in a quiet chamber, seated on opposite sides. Evan noticed her hands were trembling. "It's temporary," he said calmly. "The system always comes back." Lyra tilted her head. "You sound certain." "I am," Evan replied. "But if I'm wrong, worrying won't help." That answer stayed with her. From that moment, something shifted. Lyra began asking questions, not just about human customs, but about human reasons. Why they helped strangers. Why they joked during danger. Why they risked emotional pain so easily. Evan never claimed humans were perfect. He admitted they failed often. But he said something that unsettled her deeply. "We feel first," he told her. "Then we figure out the rest." Her species did the opposite. As days passed, other aliens noticed Lyra's change. She lingered near the human quarters. She defended human behavior in internal reports. She even smiled once, a small, uncertain expression that startled her own reflection. Evan noticed too, but he did not comment. Humans were good at noticing unspoken things, but also good at respecting them. The moment came unexpectedly. After a long shift resolving translation errors, Evan cracked a joke so bad even he groaned. Lyra made a strange sound, half breath, half laugh. It was the first time he had heard it. Without thinking, without planning, Evan leaned slightly forward and gave her a light, playful kiss on the side of her forehead. It was a gesture he had grown up with. Comfort, appreciation, nothing more. The contact lasted less than a second. The reaction lasted much longer. Lyra froze. The air in the room seemed to thicken. Her breathing changed, sharp and uneven. Her eyes widened, reflecting fear, confusion, and something deeper that Evan could not name. Evan stepped back immediately. "I'm sorry. That was a mistake. I didn't mean..." She did not answer. Station alerts flared softly as Lyra's biosignals spiked. Evan stood completely still, hands open, showing no threat. Humans learned early that stillness could be an apology. Lyra finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you understand what you have done?" Evan shook his head. "No. But I'm listening." That answer stopped her from leaving. She looked at him for a long moment, then slowly sat down. Her species avoided physical closeness. Yet she did not move away. Instead, she pressed her palm against the spot where his lips had touched. "In my culture," she said carefully, "that gesture is not playful." Evan swallowed. "I didn't know." "I know," she replied. "That is what makes it dangerous." Before Evan could ask more, the chamber door opened. Other staff entered, sensing tension. Lyra stood abruptly, her posture formal and closed once more. "This interaction must be reported," she said, her voice controlled again. Evan nodded. "I'll cooperate fully." She hesitated, then added quietly, "You should." As she left, whispers followed. Rumors spread faster than facts on Helios Drift. By the next cycle, officials from 3 species requested clarification. The word bond appeared in reports. So did ancient rite. Evan spent the night replaying the moment in his mind. He felt guilt, not fear. Humans could forgive mistakes, but they struggled with unintended harm. Lyra, meanwhile, stood alone in her quarters, hands shaking. No one had touched her like that before. Not gently. Not without demand. Her species had abandoned such gestures generations ago, yet she did not feel violated. She felt chosen. That frightened her more than anger ever could. Outside the station, distant stars burned quietly, unaware that a single human impulse had just set something irreversible into motion. The next cycle on Helios Drift began with tension woven into every corridor. Conversations stopped when Evan walked past. Screens flickered with quiet alerts marked cultural review pending. No one accused him openly, but everyone watched. Evan reported himself before anyone could force him to. That was a human habit: face mistakes directly. He entered the review chamber alone, hands steady, posture calm. Across from him sat representatives of 3 species, including Lyra's people. Their expressions were difficult to read, but none looked relaxed. "We will proceed with clarification," the lead moderator said. "Describe the action." Evan did not defend himself. He described exactly what he had done, how brief it was, and why he believed it was harmless in human culture. He repeated one sentence twice. "I did not intend harm." The room remained silent. Meanwhile, Lyra stayed in her quarters under observation, not confinement, but concern. Medical monitors showed elevated emotional activity, something rare for her species. Elders contacted her through secure channels, their voices careful and cold. "Did the human force this contact?" one asked. "No," Lyra replied. "Did he claim ownership?" "No." "Then why are you unstable?" Lyra hesitated. Her people valued precision. Feelings were considered noise, but the truth refused to fit clean words. "Because the gesture activated something ancient," she finally said. "Something we buried." That answer unsettled them. As the inquiry continued, fragments of old history surfaced. Lyra's species once formed deep personal bonds. Those bonds had made them strong but also vulnerable. When betrayal came long ago, they survived by cutting that part of themselves away. The bonding gesture became sacred, then forbidden, then forgotten, except it was not truly gone. On the station floor below, Evan waited for judgment. He expected punishment. Humans accepted consequences when they were fair. What he did not expect was Lyra's sudden arrival. She entered the chamber unannounced. All eyes turned to her. "This discussion is incomplete without me," she said calmly. The moderators hesitated, then allowed it. Lyra faced Evan, then the council. "The human did not violate me," she stated. "He reminded me." The room stirred. She explained what the gesture meant, not as law, but as memory. How it once symbolized protection freely given, without demand. How her species lost that language and replaced it with distance. The human offered comfort without request. She said, "That is not manipulation. That is choice." One official objected. "Intent does not erase consequence." Evan nodded. "I agree." Lyra turned to him, surprised. If harm was caused, Evan continued, I will accept responsibility. But I will not pretend I meant something else. Humans don't rewrite feelings to escape blame. That honesty struck the room harder than any argument. The inquiry recessed. But the station did not relax. Other species began reviewing their own interactions with humans. Some grew cautious. Others grew curious. Lyra requested time with Evan, supervised, recorded, transparent. The council agreed. They met in a public observation garden, filled with soft light and artificial trees. Evan kept his distance, waiting for her to speak. You did not run, she said. I didn't see a reason to, he replied. You could have claimed ignorance more forcefully. That wouldn't change how you feel. She studied him. Humans noticed eyes often. Evan noticed posture. Lyra stood straighter now, less guarded. My people believe attachment weakens judgment, she said. Yet since that moment, my thoughts are clearer. That happens to humans too, Evan said. Caring sharpens us. She considered that. Then humans are dangerous. He smiled faintly. Only if you're afraid of being seen. The words stayed between them, heavy, but honest. Elsewhere on the station, rumors reached the wider alliance. Some species warned against humans forming uncontrolled bonds. Others pointed out that humans had never used such bonds for conquest. Their history showed sacrifice more often than domination. The debate spread. Lyra's people faced a choice they had avoided for centuries. Suppress what had resurfaced or understand it. They asked Lyra one final question. Do you wish to sever contact? She looked at Evan through the glass wall of the garden. No, she said simply. That answer changed everything. By the end of the cycle, the inquiry shifted focus. The question was no longer whether Evan had crossed a line, but whether the line itself was outdated. Evan returned to his quarters, exhausted but calm. He did not know what would happen next. Humans lived with uncertainty often. Lyra stood in the garden long after he left, hand resting lightly where his presence still felt warm. For the first time in her life, she did not feel alone in her thoughts. And across Helios Drift, something quiet but powerful began to move, an idea long buried, now awake, carried forward by a single human gesture that refused to be small. By the time the third cycle ended, Helios Drift was no longer just a station. It had become a question the galaxy did not know how to answer. Messages arrived from distant systems. Councils requested records. Cultural observers demanded access to reports about the human and the alien girl. What began as a private misunderstanding had grown into a test of how the Alliance understood connection, responsibility, and choice. Evan felt the pressure, but he did not hide. Humans had learned long ago that retreat often made fear stronger. He continued his duties, spoke openly when asked, and refused to turn Lyra into a symbol. To him, she was still a person first. Lyra noticed that. Her people, however, struggled. Within their secure network, elders debated endlessly. Some argued that the resurfacing bond response was dangerous, proof that old instincts could still disrupt control. Others feared that suppressing it again would damage their future even more. Lyra was called to address them directly. She stood alone in a sterile chamber, facing dozens of projected figures. Their voices came one by one. Calm but sharp. You have changed, one elder stated. Yes, Lyra replied. I have. Do you deny that the human caused this? No, she said, but not through force. Then through what? Lyra paused. She searched for words her language had not needed in generations. Through presence, she said. Through attention, without expectation. The elders exchanged silent signals. That is not a measurable action, another said. That is the point, Lyra answered. Back on the station, Evan was summoned to a broader alliance hearing. This time, it was not just about him. Humans as a species were being evaluated. The chamber was vast, filled with representatives of many forms and colors. Some looked at Evan with curiosity. Others with open caution. A senior delegate spoke. Human Evan Hale. Your species is known for emotional expression. This incident has revealed that such expression may activate responses in others beyond their control. Why should this be allowed? Evan did not rush his answer. Because control is not the same as safety, he said. And choice matters more than comfort. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. We do not impose bonds, he continued. We don't claim people because they feel something. We step back when asked. We stay when invited. That difference matters. One delegate leaned forward. And if your presence causes pain, then we take responsibility, Evan said. But we don't erase ourselves to avoid the risk of meaning. That statement struck deep. Many species had survived by erasing parts of themselves. Lyra watched the hearing remotely. Her chest felt tight, but not with fear. With recognition. For the first time, she understood why humans endured so much loss and still reached outward. They accepted pain as part of connection, not proof of failure. After the hearing, Evan was restricted from external contact, not as punishment, but as precaution. He accepted it without complaint. Lyra did not. She formally requested to stand as his cultural witness. Her people objected. You are compromised. I am informed, she replied. She was allowed to proceed. The witness chamber was smaller, quieter. Lyra stood beside Evan, not touching, but clearly aligned. I speak by choice, she began. Not because of bond activation, not because of obligation. She described her life before Helios drift, the silence, the careful distance, the efficiency without warmth. We believed this was strength, she said, but it was only survival. She turned slightly toward Evan. The human did not awaken weakness in me. He revealed something we buried, because we were afraid to lose it again. A pause followed. Humans lose, she continued. They lose often. Yet they do not amputate the parts that hurt. They protect them. That sentence changed the tone of the room. One delegate asked quietly, and if this path leads to suffering? Lyra answered without hesitation. Then at least it will be real. The Alliance deliberated for a full cycle. No decision came quickly. Old policies resisted change, but something unexpected happened. Other species began submitting testimonies, stories of humans who stayed during disasters, humans who refused advantage when it required betrayal, humans who formed bonds across species lines and honored them without ownership. A pattern emerged. Humans were not careless with emotion. They were disciplined in a different way. The ruling came quietly. There would be no punishment, no prohibition. Instead, a new classification was added to Alliance records: human emotional engagement. Voluntary, non-coercive, high impact. It was not praise, but it was recognition. Evan was released from restriction. When he returned to the observation garden, Lyra was waiting. Neither spoke at first. Words felt unnecessary. I don't regret it, Evan said finally. Neither do I, Lyra replied. She stepped closer, not into his space, but near enough that choice was clear. Evan did not move. Humans knew that restraint mattered as much as action. My people are afraid, she said. But they are listening. That's more than most start with, Evan said gently. Lyra looked up at the artificial stars above them. If we continue, she said, it will not be easy. Evan nodded. Real things rarely are. She did not touch him, but she stayed. Across Helios drift, observers recorded the moment. No bond ritual. No dramatic declaration. Just two beings choosing not to step away. And across the galaxy, the idea spread quietly but firmly, that humanity's greatest disruption was not its weapons or machines but its refusal to treat connection as a liability. The turning point had passed. What followed would change everything. The decision of the Alliance did not end the tension. It transformed it. Helios drift became the most observed station in known space. Not because of weapons tests or political summits, but because two individuals had chosen connection without command. Many species did not know how to measure that, so they watched. Evan felt the weight of attention, but he did not change his routine. Humans believed that consistency was a form of honesty. He worked, listened, and kept his distance when distance was needed. Lyra noticed everything. Her people sent fewer warnings now and more questions. They asked how humans balanced emotion with duty, how they survived loss without sealing themselves away. Lyra answered carefully, never exaggerating. They hurt, she said. And then they keep going. That idea unsettled many. One cycle later, a delegation from Lyra's homeworld arrived. It was the first time in generations they had sent observers to a mixed station. Their presence alone signaled change. They requested to meet Evan. The meeting took place in a neutral chamber, clear and open. Evan entered alone. He bowed his head slightly, not as submission, but as respect. "You understand the risk you represent," the lead elder said. "I understand the risk I chose," Evan replied. The elder studied him. "You did not pursue. You did not withdraw. Why?" Evan considered the question. Because both would remove her choice. Silence followed. Lyra stood outside the chamber, listening through authorized channels. Her hands were steady now. Whatever came, she knew she had not lost herself. The elder spoke again. "Our people survived by avoiding bonds. Yet we stagnated. You remind us of what we abandoned." "I didn't intend to," Evan said honestly. "That may be why it matters," the elder replied. The delegation did not approve or condemn. They did something rarer. They asked to observe. Over the next cycles, Lyra worked openly beside Evan. They did not hide their cooperation, but they did not dramatize it either. They shared work, ideas, and quiet presence. Other species began to adapt. One refused human mediators at first, then quietly requested them during a crisis. Another revised long-standing isolation policies after observing human-led relief efforts. Humans did not push. They waited. That patience surprised many more than affection ever could. One day, a minor station emergency tested everything. A structural failure threatened a civilian wing. Protocols clashed between species, each waiting for formal approval. Humans did not wait. Evan coordinated evacuation calmly, guiding different species with simple instructions and steady presence. Lyra supported him, translating not just words, but reassurance. The crisis ended with no loss. Later, an alien commander admitted something unexpected. When the human spoke, the commander said, "I trusted him. Not because of authority. Because he sounded like someone who would stay." That statement spread faster than any report. Lyra's people watched the recordings closely. They saw no ritual, no dominance, no claim. They saw commitment without demand. In a closed session, the elders made a choice that stunned even themselves. They authorized the reintroduction of voluntary emotional study, something forbidden for centuries. Lyra was named the first cultural bridge. She accepted, not as honor, but as responsibility. When she told Evan, he looked concerned. "That's a lot to carry." "So is silence," she replied. They stood together in the observation garden, stars slowly drifting past. This time, Lyra acted first. She reached out, not touching him, but offering her hand. Palm open. Evan did not take it immediately. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "Because I choose it. Not because of history. Not because of expectation." He placed his hand in hers gently. The contact was calm. No surge of alarms. No ancient systems awakening. Just two beings, present. Observers later noted something important. The bond did not limit Lyra. It strengthened her voice. She spoke more clearly, acted more confidently, and questioned old assumptions without fear. Her people did not fracture. They began to grow. The Alliance updated its records again. Human influence, adaptive, emotional integrity, confirmed. Humans did not celebrate. They rarely did when the victory was quiet. Evan continued his work. Lyra continued hers. Their connection did not consume them. It grounded them. In time, Helios Drift returned to routine traffic. Attention moved elsewhere. But the change remained. Across the galaxy, species began re-evaluating what they had sealed away in the name of survival. Some reopened old customs. Others simply allowed closeness again, and humans remained what they had always been: imperfect, emotional, willing to reach out first. One evening, as stars burned softly beyond the glass, Lyra spoke words her language had almost forgotten. "We were wrong," she said. "Strength is not distance." Evan smiled, not wide or proud, just warm. "No," he agreed. It's choosing to stay. The galaxy did not change overnight, but it turned, and it would never turn back.